desert of the real.
Hello, critical thinkers. This is a podcast where we talk about movies and think critically about them. We talk about ethics and philosophy because Jason here, he's got a doctorate in philosophy.
And we also talk about the structure and how the movies are put together and what makes them great, because Ryan here has a master's degree in film studies.
We like to talk about movies and argue about movies, but also dig a little deeper. If you like to think critically, this is for you.
And he's making a shoveling motion with his hands. That's helpful.
This podcast is a production of Unfiltered Studios. If you would like to know more about joining Unfiltered Studios, please visit our website at unfpod.com for more information.
This episode of the Fandalorian podcast is brought to you by the Adler Real Estate Team. If you live in New York, anywhere between Manhattan and Montauk, and are looking to buy or sell, you need to call the Adler Real Estate Team. This real estate company is run by a husband and wife duo that, in addition to being real estate agents, are also a public school teacher and a police officer. It is a family-run business that gives you the attention and care you need when you are about to make one of the most important decisions of your life. And I know from experience. Also, if you mention that you are a fan of the Fandalorians, they will be able to get you up to $2,000 back at closing. It doesn't matter if you are buying or listing. So, if you are buying or selling anywhere from Manhattan to Montauk, call the Adler Real Estate Team at 631-384-6372. Or check out the website at adlerrealestateteam.com. Mention the Fandalorians and save today.
Welcome back, class. On today's episode, we are joined by author Jordan Reed to discuss his second book in the Zane Vrexon series, The Porcelain Promise, as well as a little Conan the Barbarian. All this and more in a Unraveling the Porcelain Promise with Jordan Reed episode of The Fandalorians. Teachers by day, nerds by night.
That is the bell of Vrexon. I'm gonna get it, McDonald. I'm telling you, I feel this energy. I'm gonna not butcher this all the way through.
Well, the 40th time's a charm.
Yes, we'll get there. You know what? We got time. That's the bell. Classes in session. Welcome to the Fandalorians podcast. Teachers by day, nerds by now. Teachers by day, nerds by night. Proud part of the Unfiltered Studios podcasting network. I can't look at you when I mess up because I feel like I'm gonna laugh. We are the number one, with your judgy eyes, McDonald. I don't like your judgy eyes already. We are the number one, thanks for turning away. We are the number one public school teacher, pop culture fandom podcast in the country. We join you each and every week to give you the latest news, lively debates, and reviews in the world of entertainment with a cool teacher theme. 3 of us, only 2 of us are here today, though, are lifelong friends. So you'll also get plenty of banter, friendly trash talking as only teacher friends can do. Hit us up in the mailbox, the Fandalorians mailbag at gmail.com. The Fandalorians mailbag.
You sure you're still not sick? Last week he was like sick as a dog.
I was dying. I was dying legacy virus-ish, but I'm gonna get through. And now, since you made the jokes, I have to keep both mistakes in because otherwise it makes no sense. It's out of context now. That's why you said it, and I understand what you did there. Email the Fandalorians mailbag at gmail.com. Text us 631-494-3632. We get new listeners all the time, especially when we have a guest. Let me introduce us. My name is Mr. Richardson, the man who has made a miraculously recovered. You wrote this for me? I didn't even write this one.
It's called a narrative, Richardson. Come on.
I love it. I'm going to read it right and not mess this one up too. Our guest is probably like, yo, they've messed up 4 times. It's only been 2 minutes. They weren't kidding. We said pre-show it'd be 8 hours. We're looking at 12. Listen, it's me, Mr. Richardson, the man who has miraculously recovered. Maybe that's not true anymore. I've butchered a lot of things so far. This could be lies. This could be fake news, McDonald. I don't know. Co-teaching with me, the man who is recovering from a near disaster, Mr. McDonald. All right, what happened to you?
So, I mean, Richardson, you've got kids. Jordan, do you have any kids?
Yes, I currently have 5.
Ooh, so you definitely know. So you're ready? We had a spilled soda can issue. And it was knocked over by the dog's tail. And that gets everywhere, every nook, every cranny. And then you got to completely clean and spray or it's going to get sticky. And so I'm sure tomorrow I'm going to step somewhere and be like, oh, and no, I missed the spot.
There's nothing worse.
It's
And
gonna
then,
be
it's like someone throwing a hand grenade in my house. I think I'd rather have the hand grenade.
I was just gonna say it's probably gonna be like one of those mice traps that you step on, it just sticks.
That would be, well, at least that's one way to catch a mice. Then I'd have to know that there's unfortunately lots of mice in my house.
You know what? He got bigger problems than the soda. Our guest today is the talented Jordan Reed. His debut novel, The Wizard's Brew, hit shelves in May of 2022 and went on to become a 2023 Silver Faucian Award finalist in the fantasy category. He's here with us to discuss The Porcelain Promise, the second installment in the fantasy noir Zane Vrexon.
No.
Safe.
Try it again.
You're a jerk, man. Zane.
The B ends with Rexon.
Vrexon.
No,
right?
no, you're putting an extra R in there. Vrexon.
Vrexon. Got it. Here we go. Zane Vrexon series.
Yay!
Thank you. Oh, God. Please join me in welcoming Jordan Reed. Jordan, do you want to leave already?
Jordan's never coming back. You know this. He's like, they are so unprofessional.
This is fun. This honestly is fun.
Really? Butchering the name of your book like 4 times? You sure that's a good...
It's just the character. It's not a book.
That's a fair point.
All 5 kids are in elementary. I don't get out and I don't talk to many people.
So hang on. What are the age ranges for 5 kids?
So we have 4 foster kids and 1 biological kid. Our biological kid is 2.5, and the others are 5, 7, 9, 11.
Whew, that is a lot of kids in like just a bunch.
You're going to heaven for sure.
That's awesome. I know, seriously.
Yo, he's going to heaven in a way where he doesn't have to wait in line. Then we're like, yo, Jordan, why are you even back? Yo, come on in. What's Jordan doing back there? Why didn't he just let him through? Man, cut these people. Jordan doesn't have to check in. There's no scanner. He don't need a little badge. He's going straight in. That's great. Yeah, so this is what adults do. We butchered words just like elementary little kids do as well, so nothing's changed. We're adult children. Congratulations.
Yes, we have a very low bar to be above. We just have to be more entertaining than an 11-year-old.
Yeah, we'll do the best we can.
No promise.
Jordan, tell us a little bit about yourself, though.
Well, I'm Jordan Reed. I'm from the Texas Panhandle area. I grew up in Panhandle, which is a town in the Texas Panhandle. It gets a little...
So wait, it's a town called Panhandle in the Panhandle.
Yes.
Very meta.
Yes, it gets confusing. I went to college and people are like, I'm from the Panhandle. And they're like, where?
Is it like a who's on first kind of situation?
It is for people that know of the Texas Panhandle, but don't know of Panhandle. So it can get confusing. But now I live and work basically 2 towns over. And I am basically the IT director for a small school district.
So, I mean, do you have the teacher schedule?
Yes, I have.
It's the greatest.
I do have teacher's pay and teacher's hours plus 1 month. So it's like everything the same plus 1 month in the summer.
Right, to get everything.
Fair enough.
Well, we are teachers by day and nerds by night. What are you nerdy about?
I am a big book person, but I like a lot of books that touch on pop culture or where pop culture draws its roots from. For example, like the subject we're talking about tonight, Conan, it's influenced a lot, though I feel like it's becoming one of those subjects that you can see what's it's inspired, but you might not have read this original material.
Mr. G is our Conan expert, and he couldn't be here tonight.
He's going to listen to this, and he's going to be
so
mad.
You're going to have to come back just to talk to him because he is going to be mad. Favorite teacher. We're teachers. We want to know who favorite teacher or worst
if you have one.
Enemies. Yeah, one guest didn't have one. So
I do have one, and that's going to be my middle school English teacher. Her name at the time was Mrs. Witt. Her name is now Mrs. Story. When I was in middle school,
very on brand.
It is. When I was in middle school, she made us do a creative writing journal. We could write about whatever we wanted, but we had to write something in a journal every week. And it was one of those freeing moments where the teacher was like, here's a piece of paper, go wild, write something. And that was really fun, and it really kind of developed in me a liking to writing.
It's a canon event.
Yeah.
I mean, but you think about it, your English teacher influenced your profession in more ways than one.
Yes.
Thank you so much for joining us. Can't wait to dive into some of these topics. First, let's pay the bills, McDonald. How can you support the show? First thing you do, you want to check out our merch at tpublic.com. The link is in the bio of the show. You know what's funny? I say this every week, McDonald. I haven't forgotten to put the link in the bio for I don't know, 6 weeks.
Oh, okay.
I never put the link in there.
Christmas time is coming up.
Yeah, buy the merch. Get the merch.
If anybody wants to know, I'm size extra medium.
Nice. We got shirts, hoodies, hats, extra medium size, of course, when it's from McDonald. And as always, all the proceeds go to Laney's Legacy of Hope. A minute ago, people were listening on, they're hawking their merch. What's wrong with them? Oh, plot twist, it goes to charity. We're actually not horrible human beings.
We're not lining our pockets with anything because, we're so overpaid as teachers.
Oh, yes. Laney's Legacy of Hope is a non-profit organization that engages in fundraisers and activities to provide assistance to families with someone suffering from pediatric cancer. Volunteer run, no CEO, no board. All the money, 100% of the money goes directly to the families. And when you buy our merch, our cut of the merch goes directly to them. So we don't get a dime. Fandalorians, we love the kids, supporting the kids. So please pick up something if you can. Finally, if you live on Long Island, you want to check out Red Shirt Comics in downtown Port Jeff Village for your comic book needs. Tell Mr. Darby the Fandalorian sent you, and he will give you a high five, maybe a little.
Actually, I've heard he actually upgraded that offer.
What is it?
It's now a high five or a handshake.
Wow! Listen, Darby, doing the Lord's work over there. I'm telling you, that guy. Red Shirt Comics is the official comic book shop of the Fandalorians. But if you don't want to come to Long Island, the most magical place on earth, and most expensive.
You said that wrong. You meant expensive, right?
Yeah, most expensive place on earth. It's like living in an airport here, Jordan. You have no idea. It's literally like living in an airport here. If you don't want to come this far, you have local comics near you. Check them out. Support comic book shops. And if you enjoy this kind of nonsense, me messing up words and McDonald making fun of me, follow us for Instagram at Fandalorians.podcast, the Twitter vehicle, X at FandaloriansPod, TikTok at Fandalorians Podcast.
Now, we are working on some TikTok, at least friendly material. So look for it out there.
Yes, and support us. And we'll continue making this great content that you love to make fun of us while you listen.
Look, the whole world is out there to hate you. You got to love yourself.
That's true.
You're allowed to make mistakes. Unfortunately, you make a lot of them today.
I think we're good with this segment. Let's move on.
No, now it's time for self-affirmation with Mr. Richardson. Get your mirrors out, everybody.
We'll do that right after this, the morning announcements.
Fandalorian fans, won't you lend me an ear? I hope this podcast sound is crystal clear. Now listen up, people, I got something to say. These are the morning announcements for today.
So what I'm going to do, we cut out this whole pausing so it runs a little smoother because I got to click over. So what do they drink? And what's the
power of editing?
I understand that one.
I was going to say, I'm like, think about your first draft to your final draft.
Oh, editing goes a long way. I see the students at the school, write essays and things and turn them in, and I'm like, you don't understand. The editing is all where it's at.
It's
Well,
just
so what I started to do is as we've moved away from COVID, I have been going back to pen and paper. And so we are working on an essay, and we're writing it in class. So this way they do it. And I'm like, it's going to be in pencil and just write. What they don't realize is they're writing their rough draft. And then they got to write it again. You got to edit and write, because that's what they do so often. They just turn it in and don't think about it ever again.
same thing with the fourth graders. I'll have them write. They'll hand it in to me, and I always say to them, "Are you sure you want this?" Because I know I don't see some periods. I know there's no capitals. You're kidding me right now. Because you know who has to learn capitals and periods? Kindergartners, 3 floors down. You're in 4th grade. So if you're writing like the kids on the
You're like, hey,
floor,
are you on the right floor?
Right, I say all the time. I was like, you should not write like that. Your sentences shouldn't be 2 words. If their sentences are 2 words, you can't be. And they'll go back and fix it. But like you said, it's just that editing.
Oh, that's so funny, Richardson. That's the way my school is as well. We have 4 stories, and it goes 9th grade, 10th grade, 11th grade, 12th grade. And so I'm on the penthouse. I get the 12th graders, and you're like, no, you're supposed to know all this already.
Yeah, I'm not. You should learn this 3 floors ago. Like, figure it out.
That's how we have to refer to it, as time instead of years.
Yeah, it's just it was 2 floors ago? No, it was 1 floor ago. I don't know. You know, it was a long time ago. The world of Conan the Barbarian. That was a long, many.
Son of a gun! Wait, that was a really nice transition.
Just making it work.
You're like threading the needle right there.
I'm trying new things. Just trying to. The kids love it. The kids love it. Sorry, I almost called you Mr. Reed. I'll stick with Jordan. We'll go to
You want to be Mr. Reed? You want to be Jordan? It's up to you.
I'm good either way. I've had students call me both.
How about Mr. J? You could be like the Joker.
No one's actually called me that. My hair has been so long at one point, I would be turned around and a student would go, Miss, and I turn around.
Nice.
Did you have the big beard at the time? And then you turn around, they're like, oh gosh.
Yep, big beard. You think they would know better. I've been here nearly 4 years.
Right. I'll call you Jordan because Jordan's the greatest basketball player of all time, and I just like saying that name. So, Jordan, you want to talk Conan for a little bit? When I reached out to you, when I called you down there in Texas, we were having a fun conversation about other things you're interested in. You brought up Conan the Barbarian.
It's what he's nerdy about.
Films. Yeah, I have love for the films. I have love for what they did in the comics recently. But you told me a funny story about Conan, or your thoughts about it. McDonald hasn't heard it. We all want to hear it. Can you share again?
Yes. So, of course, I'm working at a public school in Texas. And the town I work in is basically an oil town. That's the main, business of the neighboring town, which is much bigger than us. It's oil. So Robert E. Howard, the writer of Conan, grew up in and lived in an oil town. In I got it here next to me. 1 second. He died in Cross Plains, Texas, and was born in Peaster, Texas. And if you look at pictures of his house, I can almost imagine this house in my area. It's one of those old type oil houses that you could just kind of plant somewhere. And so
he was only 30 when he died.
Yes, he unfortunately took his own life.
Oh.
His mother was very ill, and he wrote as if he was possessed and cranked out a bunch of stories. But after she passed, he unfortunately took his own life.
Oh.
But while he was living, he is a Texas author, and he is a world-renowned, for these characters. And I can just imagine, it's not like high literature, but I wouldn't mind seeing it in, a few Texas schools and be like, hey, this person's from a small town just like you. You can sit down, read it, and I bet most of the students nowadays have more education than he did and have done more writing probably than he did when he started his career. And that, it's one of those, you got to look back and be like, other people have done this. You can do it.
How many Conan books have you read yourself?
I've read a lot of stories. So something to note about Conan, and it's just the time period. It's a pulp. type work. So it's right when for those out there who don't know, there's a movie called Pulp Fiction. Don't get that confused, but there's also books and other works that are pulp fiction. It's called that because paper was real cheap and they called it pulp paper, and magazines, newspapers, and stuff like that were getting printed on it. So some people thought, let's get cheap stories, put them on cheap paper, and sell them. And so we get the pulps. These would be like Doc Savage, Conan, some of these other stories like that. They show up in these pulp
You'd get
stories.
the Shadow.
Yes,
Yeah.
which later inspired Batman.
Yeah.
Yes. And so technically there's only one Conan novel, and that is The Hour of the Dragon. But everything else is short stories, and they're usually collected in different volumes. Oh, technically, Call of Cthulhu, all the Lovecraft stuff,
Yeah.
that's also pulp.
Yes, that's true. Yes, that's
Let's
great.
see.
Robert
The
E.
Shadow,
Howard
Dick
was-
Tracy, Conan, Lone
Dick
Ranger,
Tracy.
Flash Gordon, The Phantom, Green Hornet, Superman, Namor, Batman, Dan Garrett, and Jim Hammond.
Well, Jim Hammond was the original Human Torch.
Yes, because this is on a list, the greatest 12 characters of the 1930s.
And you're looking at the and honestly, I know this isn't what we're talking about, and
It is now.
Jordan, I know I'm much older than you, but Defenders of the Earth, come on. Which literally that cartoon, I don't know if you ever heard of that cartoon, Jordan, but there was a cartoon that came out in the 80s, which was Flash Gordon, the Phantom, Mandrake the Magician, and I don't remember who the black guy was, which is sad because I'm black. I forget the God, what was his name? Don't remember.
It was essentially all the heroes that had just come out into public
that
domain,
era,
and they
right.
made a show about it.
Conan was definitely one of the biggest ones, and I remember my experience with Conan is remembering the movies that I saw at a very
Schwarzenegger.
young age. Schwarzenegger, obviously. If anyone who listens to the podcast knows that the whole Lord of the Rings thing is not really my favorite kind of genre. Mr. G lives and dies by it, plays D&D. This is his baby. I'll play around with it and watch a little bit, but I'm not that deep. But I remember loving Conan, just loving the exploration of the world, and anything can happen. And I remember Thunder the Barbarian, the cartoon as well, which is basically Conan the Barbarian, but it's a sun sword and Ukla the Monk and Princess Ariel. That was my favorite show. That was another thing that
It was just far enough from copyright infringement, but it was Conan.
Yeah,
It's basically the Dying Earth series by Jack Vance mixed with Conan the Barbarian.
Yeah. Mine, it was the first time I'd ever seen Wilt Chamberlain. I'm like, who is that guy? And
That's right.
And that was, Conan the Barbarian, Schwarzenegger wasn't Schwarzenegger yet, but you were just like, you see these like literally larger than life people. Like nobody had more muscles than Conan. And then Wilt Chamberlain might as well have been 11 feet tall. And you're just like, oh my God, this is crazy.
And Jordan, we were talking earlier, I think maybe off camera, about the influence it's had. And as you said that earlier, I think before we started recording, I started thinking of obviously Thunder the Barbarian. I thought of He-Man, Masters of the Universe, which was my favorite toy as a kid, which essentially is a barbarian in a futuristic world. But there's so many. Are there others you can think of that the DNA is kind of wrapped into?
Yes. And something that ties back into another work of not literature, but books that affect pop culture would be Michael Moorcock's Eternal Champion. He is a British writer, but he was one of the first writers to do the multiverse type thing in his works, which then affected other people's writings. His most famous character, Elric of Minbilia, I can't pronounce it. Basically, it's an edgy dark elf teenager. It's influenced a lot of things, but he wanted this albino, weak sorcery character in comparison to Conan's like big, strong, alpha male type character.
So he was more of the brains.
Yes, but he only kind of made the character because Conan was there. So it's something that Conan's influenced by existing.
I mean, Conan is one of those characters that, like, when they make a Conan movie now, they did it recently. Who did they recast? It was the guy from Game of Thrones, Khal Drogo.
Jason
Jason Momoa.
Yeah.
See, look at this riveting podcasting.
I'll edit it all out and make it sound like you said it.
Yeah. So Jason Momoa was Conan, and nobody really liked it because everyone's like, that's very derivative. And you're like, well, not really, because it was the same. It's the same problem that Dune had. Dune inspired so much sci-fi that copied it, but that by the time Dune came around, they were like, oh, Star Wars already did this, and Star Trek already did this, and no. And so when Conan came around again recently, we're like, that's been done 10,000 times. You're like, but this is the guy who did it first.
I'm going to add one thing to that, but I really like, because now
no, it's done. The point is finished.
No, I can go further. Ready? When you mentioned the fact that he created that character to be the complete opposite of Conan, because he's super strong, we need someone different. I mean, that's a Superman Lex Luthor thing if I've ever heard one, where we're going to take the super strong character and his enemy isn't going to be also super strong. He's going to be like cerebral. And that, even Batman Joker is the same thing.
Well, yeah, I mean, look,
hand-to-hand
has strong moral fiber. Lex Luthor has no moral fiber, and yeah,
and Joker can't fight Batman physically, but mentally he's outwitting him. Listen, I'm all in for all this. So here's my recent thing with Conan. Marvel Comics picked them up, as in owned it to do comics
in 2019.
2019. So I dug into Savage Avengers. For those who don't know, Savage Avengers is an Avengers spin-off comic where Conan is part of it in our time period, like, currently. The way the comic's set up, and I actually bought this and read it. I had to go look in my old Amazon thing to find it, to kind of scan through it, because I couldn't remember how he ended up. Something happened in the past. Obviously, he ends up in the Savage Land, which is essentially Conan's world, the Savage Land. So he's cool. While
even Khazar is essentially Khazar, I should say,
right,
is Conan.
Is Conan? Yeah, he's everywhere. Now that Jordan Reed has brought this to our attention, I can't unlook at everything. He shows up in our time in the Savage Land, so he's still fighting dinosaurs, and he starts attacking the Hand. He runs into Wolverine, who's there. Obviously, you have that. Hey, we're both heroes. Well, let's fight it first, and then become friends.
I don't like you. We're different. We're not that different. We're best friends.
So most of the first volume, they stay in the Savage Land. And the Savage Avengers they call it Avengers, so the book came off the shelf, but it was Wolverine, it was the Punisher, it was Venom, it was Elektra, and Brother Voodoo, who end up in the Savage Land with Conan, fighting a wizard or something who came from the past. And then the second volume, they take him out of Savage Land, so he's in like modern day Manhattan, running around with a sword and trying to adjust. Jordan, they give you the keys to Conan. For some reason, they've decided, you know what, this guy's awesome. We seem to like him. He's from Texas.
For ample reasons.
Yeah, for ample. I'm like, he's right. They don't know who he is, but they found out who he is. They were like, oh my god, wait, the guy was on the Fandalorians. Let's get him.
Fandalorians? Sign him up.
All right, you're giving the keys to the kingdom. What kind of story would you tell?
I was actually just thinking about this earlier today.
I know you were. That's why I asked.
My thought was to dig back to that time period. So Robert E. Howard was a pen pal of Lovecraft, the guy that did Call of Cthulhu. So it'd be, I've seen some books in stores like this, which is like Sherlock Holmes versus Cthulhu, or this person's versus Cthulhu. But take a Conan story with the central plot of the cultists trying to raise a Cthulhu, or this eldritch horror. I even thought it out that Conan could be make it young Conan working as either a bodyguard or some type of champion to a nobleman, but he's really there to steal the guy blind. And in the background of the palace, cultists are working to summon this thing, and he stumbles into it. And
so he's like working a side hustle, and he begrudgingly is like, fine, I guess I'll save this castle.
Yes, and probably at the behest of some either woman who's a servant,
naturally,
or part of the
smoking hot broad, as they say.
Yes, or either part of the harem of the castle, because that's the type of thematic theme they go for a lot of these stories. But he's there, or it's the princess, something like that. He falls for her. She's probably the target of the cultist for some type of ritual sacrifice to summon some eldritch horror, and he ends up in the middle of it.
My favorite part of this was you thought of this afternoon. Like, you know what?
Yeah, it would take me like a year and a half to flush
like,
that out.
He's like, we look behind him. You can see the whole map, the outline of it behind him on the wall. As you can see, in like a little circle around things and these strings.
It's like one of my favorite tropes in movies where they're like, "Excuse me, I didn't have much time to whip it up," and it's a perfect scale model. Yeah. I only got time for one coat of paint.
It's like, what is that? Oh, that's Jersey. We're in Manhattan. I know, but I had to have the aesthetics.
I had to make it to scale, but
yeah, it's not working. That's a great story idea.
I would absolutely read/watch/listen anything to that story.
I think it would be a great watch. Very dark, him sneaking through the shadows. Very brutal, fast scenes.
Very Game of Thrones, like super dark screens.
Except for the last season. Let's make it lighter than that.
We could go down that rabbit hole, but we won't.
Now, before we end, I have one more Conan question to ask you, and it is not about Conan the Barbarian. It is about Conan O'Brian. So, do you think he kind of, was treated poorly by NBC, or were they right in just removing him from Tonight Show? What do you think?
Does he have to cover every Conan? Like, are we really?
It's 2 of 2. There's only 2 Conan.
That's a great point again. Yeah.
It is a good point, but unfortunately, I don't have cable or TV.
Wow. How old are you? Because like my children, they don't. You could give my kids $100 to say, put on TNT. And they wouldn't be able to do that.
32. But when me and my wife got married, she's not a big TV person. And it was just another, budget line that we could just cross off.
I hear you. I hear you. Trust me. But
everything's on Netflix and, Amazon Prime and Disney Plus anymore.
All right. So here's my pitch that I just came up with. It's Conan the Barbarian versus Conan O'Brian.
That's a 6-episode Netflix series that I'm into.
Yeah.
I'll watch all of that.
But here's the catch. It's in the decathlon. 10 events of Conan O'Brien's choosing.
All right, McDonald, I'm gonna raise the bar here because I have an idea. Let's say your first season of that goes well. They go with season 2, but you're occupied. I'm stepping in. Same characters. We're gonna go Freaky Friday. They're in each other's bodies.
Oh, wow!
Boom, season 2. Look what we do out here.
So every season is just a different trope of all the shows that we've ever possibly loved.
Jordan, you want in on this? Because I'm telling you, we are just
season 3. They're buddy cops, and Conan the Barbarian is 3 days away from retirement.
Season 4, Back to the Future. Yeah. They screwed up something in the timeline.
Oh my God, they go back to season 1. They go back to the decathlon, and they watch themselves in it at the same time. Guys, we got 4 seasons. That's all we need. We don't need these.
Season 5 is them filming a podcast about season 1.
And then season 6 finally is them stopping the making of the movie of the Netflix series about everything that happened in season 1. And just like that. Guys,
I was about to ask if there was going to be a movie. What was it? Community? Like 6 seasons?
Yeah, 6 seasons in a movie. Yeah.
Yeah.
You do watch some TV.
Now we're going to move away from your book predictions of what you would write about Conan to your actual book that you wrote, The Porcelain Promise.
Oh, you mean The Reason He's Here? Yeah.
The Reason He's Here. We're ready. We're going to get around to finally talking to you about your book. It's only been almost like an hour. I don't really know how long we're doing this. Anyway, build a meeting jingle. We'll be right back.
Come on down to the building meeting. Come on down today. There's many things to talk about. Yes, you have to stay. Urgent things to discuss. So lose that face of disgust. No, this couldn't be an email. So come on down today. Building meeting today. Oh yeah, it's the building meeting today.
We're back. Jordan Reed still here, hasn't left yet.
He tried.
Yeah, he tried. We told him he can't go. You signed the deal, buddy. You're stuck. Sorry. We'll find your town that's very adjacent to nowhere, and we'll track you down so you can't leave.
We're going to go to the panhandle of Panhandle with a panhandle.
Right.
My parents still live there. They'll give you directions.
Jordan, can you introduce our listeners to the Zane Vrexon series and give us a quick overview of the sequel, The Porcelain Promise? So what's the heart of the story this time around?
So both books follow a detective named Zane Vrexon in a fantasy world. In the sequel, he is hired to investigate a doctor who basically has a magic cure that's a little too hard to believe and nothing can explain it. And the guy's developed a cult following. So
are they gonna summon Cthulhu?
No evil cult summoning. But in my designing for this story, my thought was that it's kind of based on like a time period similar to like Sherlock Holmes and stuff like that. And I imagine people getting injured, losing limbs, stuff like that. They're basically on the poorhouse. They don't have modern science. The insurance doesn't cover it. But this doctor comes along and is like, I can help you out. And basically they stick close to this guy. The guy that basically either saved their trade, their career, or just basically their life.
But, nothing is done for free.
Oh, nothing's ever free.
That's such a tease. All right. How has Zane changed since the Wizards Brew? Were there any aspects of his personality that surprised you as you wrote The Porcelain Promise?
Yes. So it's something that developed from his character flaw from the first book. So for those that read the book or hear me pitch it before, I kind of based him on some of the tropes of hard-boiled detectives. He's a veteran, came back, but my twist on it is that he is injured and he medicates himself with healing potions. He's like, I need to chase a person down. My leg is not real great. Chug a potion. My leg is good for a while, and I'll chase down this guy. It also covers the tropes of the heavy drinking you might see in some of the old noir films.
Right.
Trying to catch some of those. But, you don't give someone a addiction and not go anywhere with it. There's consequences. And so just building on those.
Now, fantasy noir is such an unusual but intriguing genre. How do you approach balancing the mystical elements with like the grittier detective elements of noir?
A lot of it is reimagining. For example, the healing potion. You take some of the stuff you're familiar with, and it also makes the reader more familiar with what they're doing, what they're reading. One of my editors got to reading it. He's not a big fantasy person, but he's reading it and he goes, wait a moment. This is the heavy drinking from my noir stuff. And, this is the femme fatale, or this is this type of archetype. And they're able to put it together and it makes sense to them. So it kind of covers both genres. And so what is familiar to one reader, they can kind of piece together like, this is what this is in this other genre.
Yeah, it's an entry point. It makes the people a little more comfortable with the world, and it makes it easier to like build some world stuff.
It's a brilliant idea. It really is when you do it that way. What's your process for creating characters like the doctor, like people who are morally complex? Like, do you start with a villain and build layers? Do they evolve in the story? Like, what's your process when you create characters that have different sides to them?
I did this real well with the main characters, but for my villains, they kind of came from the plot. So I kind of had a plot, a story I wanted to chase, and then I worked back to who's doing it and why are they doing it, and then find reasons why they tie into other things in the story. The more threads I have, the more things I can tie into the other characters. For example, the doctor, he's offering this kind of promise of relief from damaged limbs or missing limbs. And the main character, he has damaged limbs and he deals with pain every day. But it's something he's familiar with. It's something he knows. It's his pain. And the familiarity of what he has versus this kind of, questionable source saying like, hey, I can take that away.
Do you think Zane's world and challenges reflect any aspect of our own reality? Like, how is this all connected to everything, whether through social themes or personal struggles?
And since I am pulling from that kind of time period, for some of the things and themes and elements, some things do pop up. For example, in the first book, gnomes play a heavier role. There's a gnome character, but that gnome character has to deal with racism and stuff like that. And I was pulling more from the Irish, how Irish was a part of the broader English islands. England. I don't know what you call it. England.
Yeah, that's good.
But they were also second-class citizens. They were not equal to those around them, and they had to deal with that every day in that type of setting, and stuff like that. And so there's elements like that, the development of the law. So this setting doesn't have like strict law code, and it doesn't have dedicated police. Those are elements that are in development.
Jordan, you've got 5 kids, and the last book came out 2 years ago. Where do you find the time?
That's not even one of the ones we have written down, but I was thinking the exact same thing as he described all this.
So we've been fostering for the last almost year and a half. So when we started, we only had one of the 4 siblings. Things came around that decided to push another 6 months and reconvene. Because they are currently looking to reunite the family. And that is good, but we're also sad. It's one of those, it's mixed feelings.
Yes.
But we decided to take on the 3 older siblings, so they're all in one household. So a week before school started, or 2 weeks before school started, we got them all together, we enrolled them, and we jumped headfirst into it. So far, writing book 3 has been a little slower. It's a little easier to find time with 1 or 2 kids, but 5 surprisingly is a lot. One of the teachers just recently had their first kid, and they asked, "How do you keep sane?" And honestly, after a while, you lose your mind at the first kid, you lose your mind the second kid, and we're losing minds over all 5. And I'm like, I only have X amount of a mind to lose. I've already lost it all.
Right.
Well, I've always heard a story that said once you have 3 kids, you might as well have an unlimited amount of kids because it's just chaos all the time. I stopped at 2. Mr. Richardson, you know what it's like.
I have 3, and currently my niece was with us. That's 4. And once you drop in the zone defense, the whole thing changes.
You might as well have 14.
Yeah. And I'll tell you what, let me ask a final question before we head to our next segment, and it'll be real quick.
That we're gonna do. We're just gonna ask final questions for the next hour.
This is my final. You got your final. This is my final. Right? When we're done recording, which will probably be about 20 minutes, will you tell your wife the recording ran long? I won't be home to midnight, so you can just sit in the room quietly and write book 3.
No, I'll probably meet her up. She's at church tonight because you take advantage of those things where the kids are out having fun and a little bit of quietness. I'll probably meet over there, take half the kids in my car. She drive with half in hers, and we both have a little bit of quiet.
Jordan's a good guy. He's a good guy. I'm not going there. He's a good guy. I would be like, yo, they got me recording in the morning. I can't stand the Fandalorians. They stink.
They're like, they keep forgetting to hit the record button. I have to record every night.
Stupid Fandalorians. All right, you're almost out of here, sir. I can't wait to get your book. I am 100% going to read the first book because you sold me on it, the Wizard's Brew. And then I'll come back to the second one, and I'll read your third one.
I'm not going to read it. I'm going to listen to it.
I know you listen to the books on tape. Mr. G will, too. I'm really excited about this.
And Mr. G will crank it out in like 4 hours. He listens to it at like time and a half speed. So everybody talks like this, and it's totally, you're like, oh, that's crazy.
All right, before we get you out of here, it's time for an award-winning segment in my head. Pop quiz with the Fandalorians.
The world-famous Fandalorians pop quiz.
Oh, that's a better way of saying it. All right, we're going to ask you 6 questions. They're interesting. They're fun. We're just having a good time. They're kind of opinion-based, but we will decide if your answers are right or not. So you could be wrong with your own opinion. It's weird. It's our world. I'm sorry. This is our universe. You're in our world now, Jordan. Question 1. If you could replace one of your limbs with a magical prosthetic from the book, what would it be, and what quirky power would it have?
Ooh, my left arm, because I'm right-handed. I don't want to lose my, my good hand. But my left hand, and I would keep tools in it.
Like
tools,
gardening tools?
No, I do IT, so like screwdrivers, wire cutters,
You know what?
spare USB.
So you want your hand to be a Swiss Army knife,
Ooh, better. Can I
and
put
it
a
just
Pit
like
Boy?
lays open. Yeah.
Wait, can you do what, Jordan?
Can I put a Pit Boy from like Fallout in my arm? Just have
Sure,
a
go for it.
arm-mounted,
Yeah.
arm-mounted computer, like a little laptop inside my arm.
Okay.
This is your
McDonald-
universe.
Yeah, McDonald, you make the call on these points. I think you got it, though. What do you think?
I'm gonna count it because it's
Okay,
useful
cool.
and it's not even that magical. You could just cut off your hand and put it on there.
You know,
I wouldn't recommend it.
No, that's probably not the best option. Stop. You know what? That's the 5th guest in a row you've suggested that to. It's not happening.
It's the first one that actually makes sense, though.
Yeah, I know. That's true. It's a great point. In the Porcelain Promise, prosthetics might have a dark side. If a coffee mug in your kitchen was secretly enchanted, what do you think it would do?
Honestly, I feel like coffee cups are cursed because every time I drink coffee, I feel like it should be doing more than it is.
Is it like a placebo? Are you drinking decaf? Because they have like full calf.
That's probably part of the problem.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie. Right.
I swear I'm drinking normal coffee. I just feel like it should be doing more for me. If for anything, a cup of unlimited, like a D&D magic item, a cup of unlimited coffee.
So you put it down empty and it refills magically.
Yes, you
Mr.
still have to
G
put it in the
would love that.
microwave.
Mr. G.
Oh, so it's cold,
Yeah.
but then you have to reheat it yourself. That's all right. Okay, I'd allow that.
You're taking it? We're taking the point for that one. You're doing good. 2
Yeah,
points
2 for
out of
2.
8. Most
Off
people
to a
don't do
strong
that
start.
one. All right, question 3. If you could choose between Conan's strength or Zane's magical abilities, which would you choose and why?
I feel like I'm going to get more out of Conan's strength. Zane's body's kind of messed up, and I feel like that was kind of the cost to some of the stuff he has access to. And plus, I feel like if I was Conan strong, I might, I'll probably live forever. I mean, like, I've seen Arnold Schwarzenegger in his youth.
Have you seen Arnold Schwarzenegger recently?
Yeah, it doesn't look good.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. So, unfortunately, that's the wrong answer. The answer is always take magical abilities, because then you can get a full cup of coffee whenever you want it.
Come on, stay focused, Jordan. You stay focused. Question 4. You're doing well, though. 2 out of 3 is not bad. Question 4. If Zane had a partner... wrong. If Zane had to partner with another detective from pop culture, who would you choose and why? There are 3 choices here. Sherlock Holmes, Batman, or Scooby-Doo?
Oh, I would totally do Batman. Batman, I feel like I don't think I see Batman in his detective element as much as it probably was once done, but I would for sure. I think if they went more detective Batman, it would make it really interesting. Trade out his cape for like a coat or something. Give him more of a detective look, make it all noir. I can just imagine him being like solving crimes in Gotham, just one lead at a time.
The fact that this guy's a writer, he keeps selling me on everything he says.
I know. It's really, really good. Unfortunately, it's wrong. The answer is Scooby-Doo.
It's gonna be Scooby-Doo. Come on.
That's fair.
It's
That's
just
fair.
Come on. What are we doing? Why are you getting so deep with it?
Have they done a Batman and Scooby-Doo crossover? I feel like they
Yes,
do
they
a
Yeah,
have.
they
crossover.
had the Adam West Batman.
Oh,
They did a couple of cartoons too recently too. So yes, it's always Scooby-Doo, sir. It's always Scooby-Doo. All right, 2 out of 4. We're at 50% now. We're gonna turn this around. I promise you. If you were to write a 3rd Zane Vrexon book, good, and the
You
fans
just cut out the V. I feel like you shortcutted it.
Vrexon.
Vrexon.
I think it still sounds good.
Thank you, Jordan. If you were to write a 3rd Zane Vrexon book, and the Fandalorians somehow found their way into the story, what kind of trouble would we cause? Would we be detectives, villains, or maybe magical beings with questionable motives? How are we going to be in book 3? And whatever you say has to be done, so we're in book 3. I just wanted you to know this is being recorded. All right, go.
So since it's before podcast, maybe writers in a newspaper, opinion papers,
We're
writing.
gonna have like the hats with the little press thing on it.
Let him
Yeah.
cook. Let him cook. I'm in.
Giving opinions about what's going on.
Yeah, I'm going to count that. Originally, what I want to be like that guy on Law and Order that's like picking up boxes in the middle of while they're getting interviewed and be like, yeah, Mr. Richardson, I heard of him. What of it?
Yeah, like that medium character in a way. But I like the work because if we work in the office, we're like, we're doing detective work, we're doing press, that kind of thing. Not detective work, press. We're there, we're involved, and one of us has to get killed.
No, one of us goes missing.
Okay.
I don't want to die.
It can't be me because if the black guy goes missing, it's it's terrible.
Too cliche.
Right. So you can go because you're white. I feel like that's fair. Final question. No one else is touching this one. Final question. Tell our listeners a little bit more about your book, where we can find it, how much fun you hang on, let me say it differently. Final question. Tell our listeners a little more about your book, where we can find it, and how much fun you had on our Goofy Little Teacher podcast tonight.
You can find it pretty much wherever books are sold. It's on Amazon, Barnes & Noble. I'm pretty sure you can just order it from a lot of places, which is nice. Makes life easy. That's the benefit of having a publisher.
You can also check out your local library.
I wish. I think that you still have to ask them to add it in.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Ask them.
Yes.
No, McDonald, we want them to buy it.
Well, someone's buying it. The library's buying it.
I'm going to go buy the book till the guy gets it.
And then it's available for anyone who wants to read it.
Yeah, every time.
We're trying to eliminate barriers of entry, Mr. Richardson.
I did give it to my middle school English teachers because they have the middle school library in the back of their class. Some of the middle school kids have found my book and read it. So I gave the middle school teacher a copy of the second book. So
that's so cool.
Yeah, I'm more of a crazy capitalist. They need to pay you money. But no, I totally agree with you.
But I've had a lot of fun here. I've had a lot of fun.
Thank you. Thank you so much for joining
With that faint praise, I'm going to give you the point.
Yeah.
That's 4 out of 6. Well done. Well done.
When I just want to see his phone when he gets off. Like, you're not gonna believe these two idiots. He kept saying, mispronouncing the thing wrong. The other guy's doing this. It's crazy.
He's gonna hang up and he says, "It's Vrexon."
He's gonna call his publisher. If you ever book me on this place again.
Hey, I'm a fan of fantasy books, so I understand some names I feel like writers write are never actually meant to be spoken. Some people have probably wrote characters, and so he goes, I have no idea how to spell it. It just looked good.
Yeah. I mean, you look at a lot of those fantasy names, even in like Lord of the Rings, because I know Charlie was talking about it. They have all those funky Lord of the Rings names. And then they have, what is it? Tom Bombadil or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Tom Bombadil. Yeah.
And you're like, that's just the most ordinary name ever.
How did he get there? Like, who named him?
So that's kind of like a meta type thing, because the secondary world of writing, like secondary worlds in literature, wasn't always the biggest thing. So for Tolkien, it was more like, oh, I found these journals and I have translated them the best I can into English.
Yeah.
Tom Bombadil is the closest thing to this character's name.
No, but it's like, here's Zornon and Derbiger and Steve.
You're right. Listen, Jordan, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm glad you had a good time. Jordan's book, The Porcelain Promise, again, available everywhere. That's the second book. Pick up the Wizard's Brew before that if you want to as well. Buy them all. Buy the whole set. Third book's coming soon. The Fandalorians are going to be in it. But thank you so much for joining us, though. We really appreciate you coming by today.
It was a lot of fun. Thank you all for having me.
Do you think he's going to give us really obnoxious names? Be like, Jerko and, Punch Face.
Yeah. No pronunciation guy.
Yeah. How does a reporter not be able to pronounce anything?
He's like, that's the plot twist.
That's his fatal
magical.
flaw.
Listen, we're right. We wrote a lot tonight. We did. For Mr. Reed, get his book. Head out there. It's available everywhere. You got to check it out from Mr. McDonald. I am Mr. Richardson. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll talk to you next time. I'm telling you, I got it. I swear I got it there at the end.
It only took an hour and a half.